We continue with part 6, Awesome Nightfall. Right with the poems now. No critics and commentaries. We have our own commentary. Anyways, he says, closed out the old year and held a dream of spring behind my shut eyes till now. This morning I opened them to see it's really come into the world. He closed out the old year and held a dream of spring behind my shut eyes. Till now, this morning, I opened them to see it's really come into the world. He's surprised it's actually spring.
Long winter, I guess.
Celebrating spring at each house, I find that I'm like it's in February, and I start imagining spring already. It's in my head. So I keep saying spring has come. And in your head it's come in February. If you vitalize or you meditate and you feel some vitality, you might think it's spring already. Celebrating spring at each house. He says, gate after gate adorned with festal pine. Spring has come to each and every house, garnishing all with new green. Next poem, he says, waking me up to the spring that's come. Water trickles down the valley and long crag-bound ice now cracks open, slides free. At the place called Futami, or Two Views in Ishi, he says, poem 20, look at it one way, and high waves seem to engulf the pines at Futami. But then again you see mist masking the treetops. Two views it is. Look the first way. Look at it one way, and the high waves seem to engulf the pines at Futami. But then again, you see mist masking the treetops. Next poem, 39. Spanning all of spring as companion for me, another in a hermit's hut. Don't forsake your nest here in the valley wobbler. Wobbler is the bird. It says, spanning all of spring as companion for me, another in a hermit's hut. Don't forsake your nest here in the valley wobbler. Do you think the wobbler has a hermit hut?
I don't know.
Or that's his friend? Clouds dispersed, and still it looks vague, dreamy up there. Tonight's moon hanging in the haze of spring. He's in spring. Next poem, penniless woodcutter managed to get for himself a hut hanging on a steep slope, and as boundary mark a jewel, a jade green yellow willow tree. Next poem, journeying alone, now my body knows the absence even of its own heart, which stayed behind that day when I saw Yoshino's treetops. Journeying alone, now my body knows the absence even of its own heart, which stayed behind that day when I saw Yoshino's treetops. Yoshino's treetops is the place with the cherry blossoms. So his heart remains. He's journeying without his heart. Is that possible?
Read it again.
Poem 77, Yoshino Yama. Journeying alone, now my body knows the absence even of its own heart, which stayed behind that day when I saw Yoshino's treetops.
That's when he wanted to divide himself into many.
Now he says, Hikikati, poem 82. In spring I spend day with flowers, wanting no night. It's turned around in fall, when I watch the moon all night, resenting the day. Very interesting. In spring I spend day with the flowers, wanting no night. It's turned around in fall when I watch the moon all night, resenting the day. You see, this is what I keep saying, like,
Between the flowers and
dear, when summer comes, you get up very early and you go out and you exercise early and you go out and you go outside. Summertime, you're outside all summer. When winter comes, you go inside and then you sit in meditation all night long. So your clock changes completely. You're up all night looking at the moon.
the moon in the fall, flowers in the summer.
This is very Feng-shui. It's very in touch with the Tao. In touch with the weather, your cyclic rhythms. You change your schedule from spring to summer, winter. He says, in spring I spend day with flowers, wanting no night. He doesn't want a night at all, he's just going to be outside. It's turned around in fall, when I watch the moon all night, resenting the day. He goes on, a world without the scattering of blossoms, without the clouding over the moon, would deprive me of my melancholy. Why is he like melancholy?
Melancholy.
Can't he just be a cold-hearted Buddhist with no feelings at all? What?
Relates to love.
Why does he have so much feeling?
Lost in a way. It's actually sweetness to melancholy.
He says,
That means that you love a lot.
a world without the scattering of blossoms and without the clouding over the moon would deprive me of my melancholy. It would also probably deprive him of his poetry. He'd run out of stuff to write about. Didn't they say in one poem somewhere the purpose of the blossoms is for somebody to have something to write poetry about? Now he says, poem 87, why do I, who broke so completely with this world, find in my body still the pulsing of a heart once dyed in blossom's hues? Why do I, who broke so completely with this world, find in my body still the pulsing of a heart once dyed in blossom's hues?
His heart left him in a way because he's in love with the flowers.
I thought he said, I don't know if it's the same poem, I thought he broke with the world and for some reason he still has an emotion. Why does he still have an emotion?
He has the melancholy after he breaks, after he doesn't have any emotions, excitement.
He thought he was a totally enlightened Buddhist and then he had an emotion.
Read the poem again.
Why do I, who broke so completely with this world, find in my body still the pulsing of a heart once dyed in blossom's hues? contemplation poem.
He thought his heart died back then, but it did not exactly. He still feels that dying heart.
Yeah, the hearts. These things don't change overnight here. He says, Hotoki Niwa, poem 89. When gone in death, I'll take cherry blossoms as your right for me. If any wishes to make memorial here for me and my life over there, he said he'll take the blossoms as his memorial. Okay, on seeing an ancient cherry tree with blossoms here and there, he says, poem 105, I must strain to see the few buds this old tree labored to open. In pathos were one, and I wonder how many more springs will meet here. Oh, he's asking how many more springs he's gonna share with this old tree.
You see, this is like that tree that I posted with the sporadically spread flower blossoms.
Mm-hmm.
So she's contemplating something like that.
It says, on seeing an old ancient cherry tree with blossoms here and there, now the blossoms may not be so plentiful.
Yeah.
I must strain to see the few buds this old tree labored to open.
You see, it's old and labors a lot to open it.
Remember your tree by the architect house with a few blossoms?
Mm-hmm.
In pathos were one, and I wonder how many more springs we'll meet here. You could post that tree and then put this poem, because
this poem already has an old tree.
an old tree. That's a young tree.
You can visualize that.
But didn't Saigyo put a post-it note of his poems at the shrine? And who's the other guy? Rokan used to put post-it notes up of his poems. And they'd leave a poem for another person to read, by the way. So instead of on Instagram, they'd put it on physically on the shrine.
That was the Instagram, but then...
Why don't they just post the postings on a physical body? But they do that, like...
What do you mean, physical body?
At the shrine. I guess they couldn't. Alright.
You should start posting a poem on the back of your shirt.
A poem on my shirt. You could get a... Why don't they just have a posting shirt that puts your posting on your shirt? Like,
every day when you're posting that.
Here's my Instagram feed on my shirt.
Like a special screen.
Instagram shirt.
Soon probably they come with that. A shirt that has 10 pictures one after another. To be able to just project a different images.
We're stopping on page session 6 on page 79, the poem 105, June 2nd.
Imagine somebody has a poem that you're studying and he walks away. You have to run after him to read the whole poem. Or ask the person to stop for a moment.
Well, we were going to carry your art on the street, weren't we? Like we're on our way to the gallery.
No. We have it on ourselves also.
You're supposed to become poetry yourself.
I am.
A poem. Be a poem.
I am.